Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're stepping right into a beautifully illustrated wildlife experience called the Eight-Legged Odyssey. And instead of just, listing off dry facts, we're going to experience this like a premium storybook-style documentary. Picture this: earthy browns, misty grays, gorgeous gentle ink outlines. But here's the real kicker. You gotta leave your human life at the door, because for the duration of this explainer, you aren't just learning about a spider, you literally are the spider. Let's get right into it. Patience and precision determine survival. In your new world, you absolutely do not have the luxury of making a mistake. You're dropped instantly into a high-stakes reality. And guess what? You are definitely not at the top of the food chain anymore. You're a tiny, calculating predator navigating a massive, totally unforgiving landscape. Your entire existence relies on this crazy, delicate balance between absolute stillness and explosive action. Imagine you're resting in the dark, surrounded by these moonlit blues and deep ink-line shadows. The air is perfectly still. And then, a vibration. It travels right through the delicate silk under your feet. In the hushed silence of an overgrown garden, or maybe a damp underground burrow, that single, subtle tremor, that's literally the difference between starving and surviving. The tension here is just palpable. So let's start at the very beginning. Birth into a dangerous world, emerging from the egg sac. To really get this journey, we have to look at how it starts. And let me tell you, chapter 1 of your life is no gentle awakening. You're suddenly thrust into pure vulnerability. You tear your way through the cramped confines of a hidden egg sac, and boom, you enter the world as a spiderling. You're soft, you're highly fragile, and you are incredibly small. Pure instinct is pretty much your only weapon right now. As you step out onto the earthy browns and forest greens of the floor, you've got no experience, zero guidance, and absolutely no protection. You're driven strictly by this ancient inherited urge to climb, hide, and somehow just survive. Nature is terrifyingly asymmetrical, isn't it? On one side, there's you, encased in this fragile, soft little exoskeleton. And on the other side, well, it's literally everything else. The world out there is this massive, unpredictable machine that feels like it's built entirely to consume you. You've got hungry birds shadowing the canopy, lizards darting through the underbrush. Even a heavy drop of rain from a sudden storm is basically a lethal projectile at your size. The sheer scale of the danger waiting just outside your nest is completely overwhelming. All right, moving on to our next phase. First threads of survival, childhood and learning. Now, if you manage to survive those first perilous days, your curiosity actually starts to catch up with your fear. You begin testing the boundaries of your environment, discovering the tools nature gave you as you hit these agonizingly tense milestones. Step 1, you have to learn how to interpret the chaotic vibrations all around you. Step 2, you spin your very first delicate silk thread. That's your lifeline. Step 3 becomes this constant high-stakes game of evading looming shadows. But step 4, that is without a doubt the most dangerous: molting. To grow, you literally have to tear yourself out of your own skeleton. It leaves you entirely soft, completely immobile, and just terrifyingly vulnerable to any predator that happens to wander by. But hey, you've grown, you've survived the molt. Now you're waiting on the edge of a moonlit garden. Suddenly, your silk violently jerks. Your adrenaline completely spikes. You rush toward the movement, but you have to make a split-second calculation here. Is that thrashing shape in the dark a trapped meal that's finally going to end your gnawing hunger? Or is it a predatory wasp turning your own web into a deadly trap? Driven by pure, desperate hunger, you just go for it. You lunge, you strike blindly into the dark, and your fangs actually find their mark. The thrashing slows down, and wow, this intense, suffocating relief washes right over you. You've caught your very first prey. For tonight, at least, you're going to survive. But the challenge doesn't stop. Next up is the endless, brutal struggle, facing the harsh elements. Yeah, that momentary childhood triumph, it really doesn't last long. You transition straight into the brutal, exhausting reality of an endless struggle against the elements. We're talking violent storms that rip through your painstakingly woven silk like it's wet tissue paper. We're talking predatory wasps actively hunting you down. Then there's the relentless gnawing hunger during food shortages, the constant threat of sudden physical injury. Like, imagine losing a leg and trying to hunt, and all the while you've got this creeping dread of freezing seasonal changes. It is just an exhausting existence. And that brings us to the number one. In this miniature wilderness, one is arguably the most terrifying number of all. Why? Because it represents your entire margin of error. Exactly one single mistake. Just one momentary lapse in your camouflage. One miscalculated jump. Literally 1 second of hesitation. That is all it takes for your journey to end permanently. Let's look at what happens when you beat those odds. Mastery of the web, adulthood and responsibilities. If you've somehow beaten those impossible odds, you finally transform. You aren't just a fragile, fearful target anymore. You, my friend, have become a hardened, masterful predator. Picture this. On a misty, dew-covered morning, you claim your territory. First, you secure an anchor line, spanning gaps that must look like the Grand Canyon to you. Second, with this rhythmic, deliberate grace, you weave the perfect, deadly spiral. It's honestly an architectural marvel, and you built it entirely from your own body. And finally, step 3. You retreat to the center, fold your legs, and you just wait, in complete, absolute silence. You feel a vibration travel through your web. It's that electric jolt of a trapped insect pulling desperately at your silk. You don't just see your prey, you literally feel its panic. You feel its weight. With ice-cold precision, you navigate the non-sticky lines of your masterpiece, descending on your catch like a ghost in the night. You have officially mastered your domain. But, heavy responsibilities come with all this mastery. Your life becomes this intense execution of pure instinct. Think about it. Ambush hunting requires totally silent precision. Territorial defense, that demands fierce protection of your familiar hunting grounds. But reproduction, that is the ultimate goal, and it requires extreme sacrifice. You have to expend massive amounts of energy to create and then fiercely protect that hidden egg sac. You're ensuring the survival of the next generation, and very often it comes at the cost of your own life. Which brings us to the twilight of the journey, the final seasons, old age, and the natural ending. As we enter the twilight of your journey, those warm, cinematic sunsets of your prime, they slowly begin to turn cold. The misty grays take over, and your environment becomes undeniably unforgiving. Heavy autumn rain damages your web, and for the very first time, replacing it just feels exhausting. Then that first winter frost arrives. The cold seeps right into your joints. Rebuilding gets harder and harder. You can actually feel the painful stiffness in your 8 legs. The prey has pretty much disappeared by now, and your fading strength means your body simply can't keep up with the demands of survival anymore. So you retreat, maybe to a sheltered leaf or an abandoned crevice. You're just too exhausted to rebuild your torn web, so you rest in the fading light. Looking out over the silent landscapes of your youth, those moonlit gardens and dew-covered grass, you remember the victories, the near-death escapes, the countless storms you managed to weather. You have lived a completely full, totally brutal, and undeniably beautiful life. So, when the final thread breaks, what legacy do you actually leave behind? Well, deep within the earthy browns and misty grays of the forest, carefully hidden away, is a silken sack. And inside that sack, hundreds of fragile lives are just waiting for a vibration in the dark. The cycle continues. And experiencing this incredible journey really leaves us to wonder just how much hidden struggle and how much silent triumph exists in the grass right beneath our very feet.